Hello, everybody. My name is Kristen Manners, and I'd like to welcome everybody to another episode of Targeted. My co-host V and I want to welcome everybody again. And tonight, my guest is Mr. Charles Pack. He is a targeted individual. He resides in the state of Texas, and I want to welcome him to the show. Charles, thank you very much for joining us on Targeted tonight, and I want to welcome you to the show. I know from the information that you sent me via email that you've been a targeted individual for a very long time, and from the information that you sent me, one of the things that you really wanted to discuss tonight was some solutions, maybe some solutions that you may have, or discuss some solutions as far as finding some resolve to being a targeted individual. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about your situation?
And how are you actually targeted? Gang stalking, V2K, etc.
It's somebody had sent me some evidence, and that's why I've been I'm kind of thrown off, and it's regarding what we've been researching, and he's a source for him, so I can't talk about him, but some of this stuff is saying that this all around us is like a source, like a static that they use like a sonar type of radar. So where it's widespread, then what can we do? If they're using satellites and cell towers and drones, it's like they have the control of the skies.
Right.
If they're controlling helicopters, like I get that repeatedly. Low choppers flying through. But there's a lot of repeat things that I've been going through since 2007. And there's financial thefts, there's sabotage at every level. There's the ongoing stuff now about who have we been? I've been trying to work on a lot of cases just to understand where we're at, and there's been some discrepancies between us. So it's pretty hard trying to separate. Well, in my position, it's like almost like neutral. Well, I'm getting cooked, but I'm disabled. I just got surgery, major surgery for the first time in my life. And that's been after 2 car accidents, 4 years in Iraq, and driving over the road, big trucks. But not only was I facing a 2 major life whammy, I'm getting feedback from our judicial system. I'm getting feedback from our law enforcement. I've been rolled quite a few times. I call it rolled, where they falsely imprisoned me, arrested me, right when I was trying to stay early in, whenever I didn't know anything about this stuff. To what I've stated as information so far is this is just brief history, because I keep finding myself repeating myself all the time, like the attacks, the specific details, like I don't get the B2K where people describe it in certain ways that take quite a bit of understanding to all this. So, you know, I've talked to quite a few TIs. First time I've seen you because I've seen your show, and we've been all pretty busy here lately with trying to get out the information to each other, while trying to avoid these traps that they have for us. And it's slowed down our communication quite a bit. What do you guys think?
Well, I think you're being a little bit cryptic here. I think in order to help other targeted individuals out there, we need to know more about your personal situation and see if anyone else can relate to what you're saying. Generality is not going to help in this situation.
Yeah, conclusories and stuff like that. I'm sorry, but
well, I was going to say you're ex-service, right? You said you spent some time in Iraq. I know I'm ex-service as well, so
right.
I know as soon as I got out of the service, day one, I was targeted. So would that be something that is pertinent to your situation that you feel?
Where they're using constant technology. I've been in this home for the last 40 years. I grew up in this town. Part of my life as a child, I grew up in a town about 30 miles away. But I get that sense of disconnect because it's so hard to prove on certain matters. And I've had to face this so incredibly intensely for the last 4 or 5 years because I'm finding more information and I'm gathering more information, and I'm having to go through all the debunk stuff and only have a few hours during the day and night because whenever they're attacking me, they're literally raising up this pain. Being subjected to this in the way I have been, it literally feels like I've been an incredible prisoner to this, especially what I seem to see as what anybody could come over to my house right now with the proper equipment. They can find all this stuff and source it out, whether it's coming from the cell towers. If I'm saying somebody is literally externally causing my brain swelling, it's because I've gone through all the stages of them attacking me, and then I'm like, oh, is that coming out of my body, or is it something around my area? And, well, reasonably, I've gone through those steps over and over, kind of with the programming, because it's like whenever I've reached out for help, the next thing I know, I spent like 2 or 3 years on the run from these when they're chasing me from state to state. I've got all this evidence showing the bank identity thefts.
Oh, yes.
Them mimicking class action suits and sending that to me, trying to get me to sign to it. And it's like, I'm sure you've gotten all that before.
Well, I can definitely say that thing rings true because even my mother has gone through several different points over the last year where money has been stolen out of her account, and she's asking me, do I need to get LifeLock? Do I need to get this and that? It's not going to help. They know that if money is taken away from you, then I'm going to give you money, and then that hurts my present situation. And so as a TI, they have to attack resources, the resources of a TI. And it's really criminal. It's really criminal. And you spoke of the expanding of what seems like, your brain and whatever. That's the thermal elasticity, radio frequency hearing effect, and whatnot. So I can definitely relate with you on what you're going through. It's scientifically done. Anyone can look this up. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, no.
Well, and also, Charles, in my situation, I've changed my bank account so many times it's not even funny, and I have identity theft. Like there are so many variations of my name that I can't even keep track. I have 2 different social security numbers on my credit profile. I have 2 different birth years on my credit profile. I am listed under public records. I am listed as my own relative under public profile records. It is that bad. There are so many different variations of my address and where I've lived that I can't even keep track myself. I have so many credit cards opened in my name that it is absolutely ridiculous. So many different accounts. Somebody bought a vehicle in my name. Somebody out there has purchased a car in my name. I understand the identity theft. I have been exploited so severely that I've got profiles out there on sites that is absolutely unbelievable. And I just recently learned that there is a podcast out there in my name, a podcast. So I understand all this completely. There's been a phony court order that was placed on me that I am now working on getting turned around. I have lost my Second Amendment right to bear arms, which I am in the appeals process right now with NICS, with the FBI. So these things are horrific. And by the way, Charles, I wanted to commend you immensely for your, I call it your neutrality, as far as when posts are written, because you're so easy to discuss things with, and you keep neutral bounds, which is really good, because when posts are made, or when I make posts or whatever, you really are a very fair TI. You look at things from all angles. You try to help people figure out things, and you're extremely fair, which is good, because a lot of TIs get into bickering matches, and you're not like that at all. You really do try to help out the TI community, and I want to commend you for that immensely, because you really do try to help out. You really do. And your information is extremely valuable. It is.
Thanks, Christian. It's just unbelievable how much data I'm going through, and everything that attends to. Sometimes, whenever it seems like I can probably understand where some posts people don't want to read. I'm literally typing out exactly what they're doing. And then I'm getting more familiar with the how to stop these little small things, because it seems like an overall, whenever I can catch back up with every group, I'm literally doing something that a government agency should be helping us with. And where in my own spot, I've been trying to be careful on how much I expose myself publicly, my personal information, at the same time respecting everybody else's privacy, along with having to endure the perks.
Yeah.
So it seems like really does seem like I'm trying to slip out information out there whenever I can, whenever I can accumulate stuff, but whenever I'm just enraged, I'm like hoping nobody comments, just read it and go, keep going.
But I think that you are one of those TIs that has an abundance of information, really good information, a lot of knowledge, and I think that sharing that knowledge is really important for other TIs, because what I think dominates the TI community a lot is fear. So much fear is out there that it's really hard for people to say or do anything because they're so afraid of what's going to happen to them. That's what I see.
Absolutely.
And I want to say that I may be degrading the show with this. I really hope I'm I'm not, but I have to ask, and this is a relevant issue at this point. I want to say that I'm taking inventory of this exact detail as far as race is concerned. Now, you say you're from Texas. I can hear that you're from Texas. I'm from Texas myself. Most people can't pinpoint me as far as where I'm from, but again, I had a mother who was an English major, wanted to be an English teacher. Speaking slang and that sort of thing was not allowed in my household. I grew up speaking proper English, and so people can't place my accent. But I grew up in Texas. I was born in Lubbock, Texas, raised in Austin, Texas. And, but listening to you, you said you've been where you were at for 40 years, and I can believe that. It's there. That's a fact. At this point, I'm not going to dispute it. But if we were doing a radio show right now, someone would think that you're a good old boy and would relate with you so much. But here you are, an Asian man, I assume, an Asian, someone of Asian descent, and you have served. You're a Texan. I mean, there's nothing to hate about you.
No.
But here you are, a targeted individual, and that blows my mind. So,
Absolutely.
Why?
Yeah, why? So see, and I see the same thing. I mean, I look at just this nice, very articulate man, very educated, nice man, and I think, who would want to target you? Who?
That's where, when I explained from the very beginning how this all began, if I explain what happened to me in Iraq the last 6 months, it's hard. It's so gut-wrenching, some of the points in between, that my final point usually doesn't get across, and it's like I'm an accident inside of somebody else's accident inside of somebody else's accident. It'll be.
Oh, I understand that.
Like the lady and the guy that approached me and started this whole thing, it seemingly for me, approached me at processing before we deployed overseas. And she said, they both sat down, real calm, seemed calm, like two people meeting each other new. And I'm like, can I see? This is during lunch, during a work processing. And she was like real fast in her speech. And she was like, you were over in Iraq before, and this was in 2007, June. You were over in Iraq before in 2004 as a truck driver. What were your experiences like? And I was like, well, I went over there before. I was here as an over the road driver for 5 years, and then I go over there, for. And the person that hired me on, they even said just weird things about how they hired me, how it started from before. But then whenever she asked me that question, she was like, what was your experiences before in Iraq? And I was like, I was bombed and shot at, and we're in convoy. We're driving fuel tankers from base to base to base all over Iraq. So when I said that, the gentleman jumps up, and at the same time, her eyes just open so wide. And they had, at the time, I was 30 something, about 39, and they're 38. The guy gets up, and his face, everything, his whole manner and everything just changes. He gets up, and his face turns ugly, and he storms off, and he leaves the assembly area. It was a in-processing situation where it's like a cafeteria area, and then outside of that are the line stages for each kind of a classroom setup for each deployment. I mean, we had to go through like so many stages in huge groups, and we were hired in like 2,000 or 3,000. I think there was like maybe 800 or 900 at that one particular deal that was around me, and there's tables all around me, and there was people at the same time in the line. And she had jumped up too after the guy stormed off, and she was just shaking her head. And the next thing you know, she's walking to that line of people. I noticed a few of them were rehires that I'd seen before in a company administration, because I've been there from 04 to 06, and then took a few months off, and then I was in the middle of 07. So I was in a different group, but there's some there was a whole lot of rehires there, and a lot of foreign rehires or new hires. There's a lot of these younger groups, employees that were being hired on. And she was going over to him doing this number to each person, looking at me. And I'm just sitting there on what in the world? And my food's in front of me, and she's going to each person, and each person that she does this to, while she did it to like 5 or 6 people. And after she did that, each person was like I threw some food at them, and that was the return expression I was getting. I was like, what the hell did she do? But so that, to me, the hindsight of it is, who were those two, and why do they? Because everything after that was raw gang stalking, coworker style, and then became other military members who were also, just ragging on me hard in base. It was like they were yelling out things out of my past from home. And what in the world? And I got redirected to a couple different bases, and my driver's license ends up missing. We end up going to Dubai. One stop was Dubai, and we had to exchange planes, get off that international airport, get on a bus, get on another plane. Well, we were exiting out the back of the airport in like a single file line to our buses, our employment buses, to take us over to the hotel. I'm sorry, I said the plane stop, but it was it was a rest stop, and it was like a check-in and a processing for us. But and I'm only going on known public information, because I do know some of this information is kind of obscurity. So I don't, I stay within, even below the knowns. I've experienced that before, and that was real. Where, in the early years when I came home disabled, I was fighting the injury in my spine from a convoy accident, and that's what I've been home for since 2008. But as soon as we were exiting our line, there was all these local people at that airport, and there was like a layer of bricks that was like a couple feet high, and a guy was standing like a local subcontractor, and he looked of the local worker's dress, and I noticed, and he had a little hand camera that had a spotlight on us, because we were surrounded by people with the dark burqas, dark black, and that was their International Airport. But it was a sea of them. So it was all of us Americans in just one line exiting out the back door going to the buses. And this guy's sitting there videotaping us out of the blue. And half of the line, I'm about halfway into the line, and another gentleman behind me, he was like, I remember he was previous military. We talked on the a little bit on the plane over, or before the plane over, and he stated, I elbowed him and I was like, hey, you see that guy? He's videotaping us. I was like, look, go get security and I'll try to keep an eye on him. And I just lost him out of view for a second, and not even the end of the line had gone through. I mean, exited out. He ran to security and I lost the guy. Right? Because he was sitting there videotaping. I was out of his view whenever I had that communication with the gentleman behind me. And when security walked up, he was like, what happened? And I was like, it was company security. And I was like, this guy, the other employee told him, this guy was videotaping us. And he had a spotlight, and he just had normal, like, local foreign worker dress wear. So I don't know what happened to that, but the security guy said, well, they're videotaping us, you videotape them back. And because, he was gone. But I'm like, oh, great. Well,
I can tell you, the intelligence game is a hard one to play sometimes. Now, whether you drop the ball there or not, I mean, that's up to you to decide, or possibly your targeters to decide. But in the military, it's a totally different game. I always tell people I was targeted right after I got out of the military, but you bring up the memory of me being jumped at least 2 or 3 times by my own squad members. And, going to the sarge, going to the staff sarge, going to the first sarge. Oh, yeah, really? Oh, let me write this report down. And there might as well have not been any ink in the pen because the paperwork didn't go anywhere. So, yeah, it's very difficult. And I don't know whether they faulted you for losing track of the guy or you were set up for the situation, but it's very shady when you deal with military intelligence, when you're dealing with military, period, because you have gangs who are recruited, you have cults that are recruited. There is no one that is separated from anyone else through the recruitment process. It's the meat grinder, okay? It churns it out. You don't know who you're going to end up being with. You can end up being squad mates with, KKK member or someone who's had lost their father to someone in World War II, and they hate Asians. You could be literally with anybody. You could be bunked up with anybody, and they're not going to let you know their altered motives at all whatsoever. You run the risk of being in a general population. When you join the military, you join the risk of being in a general population of a prison combined with anything else.
I'm having I'm sorry to interject here, but I'm having a technical issue here, V. Running low on battery. So I just wanted to let you know, I don't know how much longer we have here, but I'm blinking here, low on battery. I just wanted to let you know. So,
but
I have very little time left.
Okay. There's other data that I got to try to get out too, and I've had to look into the legalities to see if I'm posting a certain thing, I'm hoping it's getting the victims to help them through whatever stages that. And I've noticed different victims in different areas are going through different customized targeting associated with their brain frequencies and whatnot. And a lot of this stuff is pretty, it's way high tech and but I'm on the other end of the civilian side. So most of my friends I grew up with are kind of, of the kind of what I call them, nerds and geeks. So whenever that happened to me in 2007, and I come back home, I don't say anything about what I was experiencing as far as coworker abuse, military members on the base, but it hit me that I must be getting hacked or something, because some of the things that they're done, they could have only known off of my being in my email. So I was like, right then and there, I am not even going to try to be anything more than a consumer. Someone who buys a computer from Walmart, like a simple computer. And then, right, all I'm expecting is I just want to bank and surf the net, surf the web, and listen to music. And, try to trust that I can do some financing or some advanced calculations, like keeping up with my checking account and stuff. But they annihilated not only my 4 or 5 banks, but they annihilated, they tore me up at every ATM machine, and they had me on the run for a couple of years. And I was digging more and more and more whenever I could, in between them chasing me with that burning weapon in these vehicles, was because the police were giving me the cold shoulder and stonewalling me, and then did the other things. And I was like, oh my God, and then I'm finding out that's part of the programming. Time for me to move. And then I get stalked over there and targeted over there and over to one country, and then I'm back home.
Well, it's hard. Every way that someone is targeted is different, but the same from everyone else. Our host has dropped off because her battery power is done, so it's left up to me to end the show. Charles Pack, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show.
I'm very glad to have met you. I remember I messaged you a few times off of the Facebook thing, but they were hacking the heck out of me, keeping me from watching your shows. And it was okay because I was having to read the text, and going through that route means I have to stay simple-minded consumer and not use any kind of special anything.
Yes, thank you again for coming on. And hey, we'll connect. I do have a Facebook page, www.facebook.com/Vendetta00V. I believe that's what it is. But hey, get a hold of me. Get a hold of us at thetruthpharmacy@gmail.com, etc. Charles, once again, thank you for coming onto the show.
You're welcome. Hopefully we'll get to either meet or communicate in the future and keep in touch.
Absolutely. You have watched another episode of Targeted with your host, Kristen D. Manners, and me, co-host V. Catch us next week.